report, Human Development Report, HDR report, published by UNDP. And this is the first Human Development Report. So from this, please read the chapter 1. Okay. And the last one is about India's latest India's Human Development Report, which was in 2011. And also, this is the technical report, the methodology component which we are going to discuss mostly is here, the latest one. So I'll suggest you to read the chapter 1 of 1990s Human Development Report and the technical reports of the latest available Human Development Report published by UNDP. So why we are interested in studying human development? Here, human development is different from the biological definition of human development. This is socio-economic concept of your human development. It is not the biological progress or the development of humankind. It is not. It is related to our economic concern. But in terms of economic concern, we have already attempted to look at human progress through GDP. But then why we are interested to look at human development as a concept rather than GDP or GNP to look at human development. GDP and GNP.
Sir, please start the recording.
I told you I'm not recording anymore. I'm not.
Okay, sir.
I told you I'm not recording. You were not there in that class. I'm not recording anymore because as I call anyone's name, nobody is responding because the recording is available. We will not listen. So, so the concern was when we are measuring GDP or GNP, this GDP and GNP nothing but goods and what you can say, the goods and services we produce, the monetary value. But we are not producing goods and services for the sake of goods and producing goods and services. These goods and services are produced for the better life of the people living in those economies. So these GDP and GNP, they are only a means, not the ends. They are the GDP or GNP or income, you can say, national income, are just the means rather than the ends. The ends is to make the people or create an enabling environment for the people to enjoy long, healthy, and creative life. The real aim of development should aim at creating an enabling environment for people for enjoying long, healthy, and creative life. Why? Because people are the real wealth of a nation. So this may appear to be a simple truth, but this is often forgotten in the pursuit of accumulation of commodities and financial wealth. So people are the real wealth of a nation, and the objective of development should be create an enabling environment for those people to enjoy long and healthy lives. But this truth mostly forgotten in the pursuit of accumulation of our goods and services and financial wealth. This concept of development we can trace back to Aristotle, who argue that the difference between a good political arrangement and a bad one in terms of its success and failure lies in facilitating people's ability to lead a flourishing life. Therefore, humans are considered the real end of all activities. Our income or GDP, GNP are only what you can say the means to achieve some ends. The ends is that what Aristotle called as the flourishing lives. So how we can define this human development? We can define human development as a process of enlarging people's choices. So if we can increase the choices people have, then we can say there is human development. And how we can enlarge people's choices? The most critical ones are to lead a long and healthy life, to be educated, and to enjoy a decent standard of living. Additionally, these choices may include political freedom, human rights, self-respect, or empowerment, and so forth. it has been argued that income is a good proxy for all other human choices, since access to income permit exercise of every other option. That if you have access to income, then you can have more choices in terms of uh, health, educations, or other things. However, this is partially true. This is not correct absolutely. This is partially true. So this income is just a means for achieving more choices in other dimension. So how we can, as we are discussing and comparing this human development with GDP and GNP, and we know how we can uh, measure GDP and GNP. Given that we define human development is a process of enlarging people choices. Enlarging people choices, how we can measure this. And the key component of enlarging human choices, or the dimension of enlarging people choices, are to have a healthy life, to be educated, and to have a decent standard of living. So how we'll measure it? Because choices are many. Therefore, what we can do is we can uh, identify the most critical choices and measure the achievements in those critical choices that help in enlarging people choices. So the point I'm trying to make here is we want to measure human development. What is human development? Human development is enlarging people choices. So can we take all choices? It's impossible. Therefore, what we can do is you can identify the most critical choices and look for the dimensions where we have some achievements that will be helpful for achieving or getting more other choices. And when we are deciding upon those dimensions, if you have some achievements in those dimensions, then those dimensions should be least controversial. For instance, if we think of dimensions of freedom of mobility or freedom of free speech, probably we may not value it as much as someone who has not having those things. Because in here in India, we enjoy some sort of freedom of speech or free mobility. But now you ask people in probably Ukraine or conflicting zones where the human mobility is very restricted, uh, then they may say no, mobility is very much important. But for us, because we are enjoying it already, so for us probably it is not reflected as such. So when we are deciding on these dimensions, these dimensions should be least controversial or least debated. They should be universally accepted. Like you may think that political freedom is one dimension, or you may think women's uh, going out or something like that is more important. But these are probably debated or maybe not universally accepted. But there are three dimensions on which there is little disagreement amongst the countries that achievement in those three dimensions will enhance people's choices, will enhance people choices. These three dimensions are known as a long and healthy life, knowledge, and a decent standard of living. A decent standard of living. So these are the three dimensions where there is little disagreement on these, and we measure the human development using what we know as human development index. Keep it in mind that human development index is a measurement tools to measure human development. They are not equal. Human development is a concept. Human development index is a tool to measure that concept. So human development implies a process of enlarging human choices, where human development index is a composite index of three dimensions of a long and healthy life, knowledge, and decent standard of living. So we measure this long and healthy life. Nowadays, it is measured by the life expectancy at birth. Here, when we are looking at these dimensions, and then we have this indicator, which indicator we should take so that the dimension is captured. We have alternative indicators. So when there are alternative indicators, then we should choose such indicators where there are little disagreements. And here in this case also, in a long and healthy life, we see a life expectancy at birth is a good indicator for a long and healthy life. Similarly, knowledge. Initially, this knowledge was measured using two indicators. One is adult literacy rate, and then the gross enrollment uh, ratio, the gross enrollment ratio. But nowadays, not because of the problem of this calculation of this literacy rate, how we calculate the literacy rate. For instance, in India, mostly the literacy rate is a self-reported literacy rate. What we mean by this self-reported literacy rate, the, they visit you and they ask whether you are literate or not. You say, yes, you are literate. And somebody say no, then they are not literate. So being literacy as seen in, or illiteracy seen as or looked down. Therefore, there is a tendency for people to report as they are literate than illiterate. Furthermore, this literacy rate uh, measurement differ widely across the globe. In case of India, as I'm saying, it is self-reported. But for other countries, they should be able to do simple algebra. They should be able to write a simple sentence in their own language, sort of thing. So because of the, again, in the enrollment ratio, given that government is providing subsidized or free meals and books and other things in various parts of the world, what has this has led to increase in ghost students. That is, those students are not in the class, but their name is there. These are ghost students. So because of these two, now knowledge is measured in terms of mean years of schooling and expected years of schooling. And the third dimension is your decent standard of living. And this is measured by GDP per capita in constant US dollar, because we are initially, this Human Development Index was prepared by UNDP, United Nations Development Program, where they intended to calculate this Human Development Index for various countries. Since countries are having their own GDP in their own currencies, you need to have a common platform, and this purchasing power parity US dollars gives you this common platform for comparing the GDP. As we'll go along, we'll have an example. Uh, uh, how this works. But as I said, choosing this dimension is critical, and choosing the indicator also critical. When we are choosing these dimensions not only universally accepted, but these dimensions also capture what we call human capabilities in terms of improved health, knowledge, and skill. And using these capabilities, how humankind has led to a productive work or leisure. So these dimensions of human development also capture human capabilities and how these human capabilities are used for productive work or leisure. So that is why uh, these dual dimensions of human development, or these dimensions of human development have the dual effect or dual characteristics, you can see.
So what's the difference between dual dimension and that 3D dimension?
This is not dual dimension as such. What this dual dimension of HD means, those are the dimensions we are using to measure our human development. Here, this dual dimensions means dual characteristics, you can think of, or dual effect of those dimensions, dual effect of dimensions of HD. You can think of this sentence as such. So there are two effects of those dimensions. One is they capture the formation of human capabilities and how these human capabilities uh, uh, are used for productive work or leisure. So these human capabilities is captured through human improved health, knowledge, and skill. And these human capabilities are reflected through your knowledge and long and healthy life. Whereas how these human capabilities are used in the productive work or leisure, that is captured in your GNP per capita. GNP per capita. So these dimensions of HD had dual characteristics or dual nature, you can think. So this is already, I have told you, that is the Human Development Index is a composite index of these three dimensions. Initially, the Human Development Index was introduced in Human Development Report of 1990. And as I'm suggesting, please read the chapter 1 of Human Development Report of 1990 to understand the conceptual component of human development. And this Human Development Index was calculated for the year 1987. In the 1990, they calculated it for the 1987. And there are other indices besides your Human Development Index. The other one is Inequality Adjusted Human Development Index, Gender Inequality Index, Gender Empowerment Index, Human Poverty Index, and Multidimensional Poverty Index. What we'll do is we'll discuss Human Development Index and Inequality Adjusted Human Development Index. As I said, please go through the technical appendix of the latest Human Development Report. Anyway, I'm going to upload them in your section 3. So you can download from there and read. So you self-read these four measures: gender related development index, gender inequality index, gender empowerment measure, human poverty index. So we'll discuss only these three: HDI, inequality adjusted HDI, and multidimensional poverty. Others are in the same line. So as I said, we have these three measures, but these three dimensions, as you can see, human development in these three dimensions, what we observe, we observe that your long and healthy dimension, which is captured by or measured by your life expectancy at birth, is measured in years, where knowledge dimension, which is captured through expected years of schooling and mean years of schooling, they are measured in years. Whereas GNP per capita is measured in dollars. So we cannot aggregate them because they are in different measurement units. Therefore, what we have to do is we normalize those indicators, and we do the normalize with respect to the bounds. The bounds are nothing but the minimum and the maximum values. The minimum and the maximum values. So what we do is, for the health dimension, that is long and healthy life, and knowledge dimensions, which we may be calling as education dimensions, and a decent standard of living, which may call as the income dimension. So the health and education dimensions are standardized using this formula, that is actual value, that is the value the country has received, minus the minimum divided by the range, that is max minus minimum. So we normalize all the indicators of health and education dimension using this formula. Then in case of income, we normalize them similarly, but what we do is we take the natural log of them. Where do we take the natural log of income? What it means? What is the economic implication of taking natural log in the income dimension? This means that the diminishing returns to transforming income into human capabilities. What we mean by this? In simple English, say, let me give you why, as I said, income is just a means, the ends are something else. The ends are to increase human capabilities, increase human choices. Now think of, you are giving 5,000 rupees to Ambani's, will that increase their choices? Most likely not. But if you give this 5,000 rupees to the rickshaw puller in your campus, probably that will increase his or her choices. So what you see, when your income increases, your choices also increases, but at a diminishing rate. In fact, after a certain threshold level, even after your income increases, that will not lead to increase your choices. That is why we are taking this law. Did you follow this?
Yes, sir.
That means it would attain a saturation after some time.
Yeah.
That means it would attain a saturation after some time.
It's saturation in the sense that transforming this income into your human into some increasing choices will get saturated. Like as I was saying in the example, now you every month you give 10,000 rupees to Ambani for one year or 2 year, any whatever time. Will that increase their choices?
No.
No. But if you give that 5,000 to a rickshaw puller, that will increase some of his choices. But even if you give it to, say, a beggar, that may increase more of his choices. Okay. So what you see is, as your income increases, transforming that income into choices go on increasing, but at a diminishing rate. And after certain point, probably that will have little effect. That is why this statement means diminishing returns to transforming income into human capabilities. That is why we take this law. But there is some statistical reason as well. That is when you take this log transformation, because income is very skewedly distributed. Mostly it is positively skewed distributed. So when you take a log transformations, that make your distributions more sort of a normal distribution. But this is not why it has been taken here. This is taken because it captures an economic component of that, how we can transform that income into human capabilities. That is what. So when you are normalizing our dimensions, then you need to have these minimum and maximum values. And these minimum and maximum values are known as your goalpost and are provided. And these are the minimum and maximum values for your life expectancy, expected years of schooling, mean years of schooling, and uh, uh, per capita income, mean and maximum. These using this mean and maximum, we can calculate our HDI. So this is how the HDI is calculated. So you have these dimensions: long and healthy life, and being knowledgeable, a decent standard of living. These are the three dimensions. And we measure these three dimensions using life expectancy, mean years of schooling, and expected years of schooling. Indicators measure the knowledge, and GDP per capita measure your decent standard of living. Now from here we calculate the life expectancy index. Here we calculate the education index, and here we calculate the income index or the GDP index. And then we combine all these three to get the HDI. Let's look at an example to see. Say this is the example for Bangladesh. these are the actual values observed for. So life expectancy for Bangladesh is 72.3, expected years of schooling is 11.2, and mean years of schooling is 6.1, and per capita income is 4,057. So now these are the indicators for Bangladesh. Now calculate the health index. That health index is nothing but the actual value, that is, as you can see, 72.3, and minus the minimum. The minimum, as you see here, 20, and maximum was 85. So 85 minus 20, so that gives you the health index. Similarly, you get the expected years of schooling index, and that is the actual value minus the minimum, which is 0. The maximum was 18 minus 0. The normalization process, the way we have done, also make all its indices lie between 0 and 1. So here, mean years of schooling index, the actual value minus the minimum, maximum minus the minimum, and then you get the these expected years of schooling and mean years of schooling. Now from these two, we calculate the education index. So this index, so average of these two get you the education index. So when we take an average like this, what you are saying is these two are, in economic terminology, these are perfect substitutes. And similarly, using that normalization formula, you calculate your income index, that is log of 4057 minus log of the minimum value 100, log of minus log of your maximum, your 75,000, so forth. So what you get is health index, education index, and income income. So here, as you can see, you can take these three and calculate your human development index as the geometric mean of these three index. When you are, see here in the education index, you are using the simple average or the arithmetic mean. Here you are using the geometric mean. Earlier, the human development index was calculated as the arithmetic mean. Now, since 2010, it has been moved to geometric mean, because when you are calculating human development index using your arithmetic mean, you are assuming perfect substitutability amongst the three dimensions. So that what I mean by that, you can increase in one dimension and you fall in another dimension, but still your HDI will remain same. But this will not be case when you will have doing your geometric mean, because now you are giving more weightage to what you the dimensions in which you are lagging the most. And this is the human development index for India, China, Netherlands, Norway, Pakistan, and so forth. You see this Norway, these Scandinavian countries, Norway and Netherlands, they have a very high HDI. This Netherlands, Norway, and all the Scandinavian countries have very high HDI. And if you see in case of India and Pakistan, they started in 1990s somewhere in the same line, but now India is more is around.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, have you changed the slides, because it's still showing the index slide?
Oh, I have changed the slide. It didn't change. Now, did it change?
No,
No.
sir, not for
There's
me
not
at
the
least.
calculation part.
Okay. Now, can you see the graph?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, then let me be in the uh, view mode rather than the full screen mode. Okay. Okay. So here we can see these Scandinavian countries, Netherlands, Norway, these countries, HDI is very high, and most often that not, you'll see that these countries at the top of the HDI table. And if you see for India and Pakistan, they started in around zero point 0.4, but now India has crossed 0.6, but it is below zero point 0.6 Pakistan, sort of thing. But if you see China, China and India or Pakistan, we started not very far from each other, but now you see the gap has been increasing. The achievement in India, uh, so China is far more better than that of India and Pakistan and so forth. So I'll advise you to look at the recent human development report and look at those indicators.
So what are Scandinavian countries you just said?
This is Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, sort of thing. These are the Scandinavian countries. So this is how we measure this. So when we measure so earlier initially in 1990, it was measured like this, calculated in the HDI in 1990s to 2010, it was like this. So each indicator was given or each dimension was given equal weights. But in case of education index, the adult literacy got a 2/3 weights and primary enrollment got 1/3 weights. So accordingly, you can calculate your HDI. But this has been changed since 2010, and the way we have done it is on the basis of 2010. So here assumptions of this equally weighted implies all the three dimensions are equally important. Probably that is why initially they took, but that also suggests that they are perfect substitute, which is a problematic. That is why they now move to this. So this is earlier how it is being calculated for HDI for let's say Zambia. So we can see the life expectancy. The achievement of the life expectancy of Zambia was 41.4. So given the minimum years and maximum years for that, you calculate the index. Similarly, for enrollment and literacy rate, you calculate that and get the education index. And similarly, for the income index, you get the income index and calculate the HDI. For Afghanistan in 2002, this is for Afghanistan in 2005 and so forth, the earlier index. Now, what we'll do is, no, we'll stop here. It's already 8:56. So we'll stop here. In the next class, we'll discuss this inequality adjusted human development index. If you have any questions, I'll take them.
Slide number 23, you took average of those.
Yeah, this average of those because it was earlier, it was done like that from 1990 to 2010. That was Zambia for 2002. That's the example for Zambia. It was for 2002 when it was in case of arithmetic mean average.
Okay, now it's in the form of geometric mean.
Now it is form of the geometry.
Okay, got it.
So we'll stop here. I'll download the, sorry, I'll upload the PPT in a day or two. Okay. Also some study material there in your section 3. So you download from section 3 and so you can leave the meeting. I've taken your attendance, so you can leave the meeting.